Hello, welcome back. So today we're going to be continuing reading from the December 2020 edition of The Light paper, a free newspaper you can access using the link that I'll place in the description of this video. And today we are reading this article, LIBOR versus SONIA, which is in the economy section of the paper. So let me just expand a little bit. Okay, here we go. LIBOR versus SONIA by Jeff Dykes. Photo credit is by Scott Graham. I recently learned that my mortgage provider is switching the interest rate calculation mechanism on my 13-year-old mortgage from LIBOR to SONIA sometime in 2021. And whilst this initially caused me to investigate the ramifications for my personal financial situation, I was equally interested in the implications for the global market. For those unfamiliar with the acronym LIBOR, it stands for London Interbank Offered Rate, is defined as a charge for unsecured lending between banks, and the rate is determined by the equilibrium between supply and demand on the funds market. It is calculated for 5 currencies: the US dollar, pound sterling, euro, Japanese yen and Swiss franc, and different periods ranging from 1 day to 1 year. It has been the world's most widely used benchmark for short-term rates since its introduction in 1986. The widespread manipulation of LIBOR after the global financial crisis of 2008, together with the dwindling number of interbank borrowing transactions, caused regulators to question LIBOR's future and decided it would be appropriate to move towards a risk-free rate, RFR, a rate of return on an investment with zero risk of financial loss. This means that around the world new mechanisms will be launched for each currency. And in the case of the UK, the Bank of England will be responsible for administering SONIA, Sterling Overnight Index Average. There is little information currently available for borrowers as LIBOR's replacements are not yet fully operational, but there are websites of banks, accountancy firms and lawyers such as Stephen & Bolton LLP, from whose site I have taken the following quotes. What is the key difference between LIBOR and SONIA? The key difference is that LIBOR is forward-looking. It is agreed at the start of an interest period. SONIA is backward-looking. It cannot be determined until the end of an agreed interest period. This means that borrowers will no longer have upfront certainty about the amount of their interest payments and will require relatively last-minute calculations of the interest due. What does the transition mean for borrowers? Pricing. Will SONIA-based loans be cheaper? Probably not. We are already seeing that lenders will want the same all-in interest rate return. SONIA is lower than LIBOR because it does not include the credit/liquidity risk premium noted above. Lenders are therefore likely to increase the margin or add a credit adjustment spread to cover the difference. It will also mean reduced certainty over interest rates and payments. What has intrigued me most about all this is that at a time when rumours persist of a move to a one-world currency, we are actually seeing the devolution of a global lending mechanism, with the equivalent of SONIA being established not only in the countries of the original LIBOR currencies, but also other major currencies such as the Hong Kong, Singapore and Australian dollars. The original proposal to replace LIBOR came from Andrew Bailey in July 2017, then CEO of the Financial Conduct Authority and current Governor of the Bank of England, whose financial stability report at the time is quoted as saying that the continued reliance of global financial markets on LIBOR poses a risk to financial stability that can only be reduced through a transition to alternative risk-free rates by end 2021. The Bank of England formed a working group to oversee the transition, and in January 2018 it was reconstituted and now includes banks and dealers, investment managers, non-financial corporates, infrastructure providers, trade associations and professional service firms. This group includes representatives from UK, European and USA major banks and investment firms, plus Shell, GlaxoSmithKline, the National Grid, Associated British Ports and IBA, ICE Benchmark Administration. The latter is a Fortune 500 company that owns the registered trademark LIBOR, and thus piqued my curiosity. Founded in 2000 by Jeffrey Sprecher, IBA, according to its website, provides marketplace infrastructure, data services and technology solutions to a broad range of customers, including financial institutions, corporations and government entities. Sprecher was originally involved in energy trading, and the year before the Enron collapse, he obtained 80% funding from Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley to set up Intercontinental Exchange, that's ICE, with control shared with Shell, Total and BP. Consequently, his business took off overnight when the market leader collapsed. Earlier this year, Sprecher and his wife, Kelly Loeffler, newly appointed US Senator, were discovered to have sold off millions of dollars of stock in companies vulnerable to the effects of the pandemic, whilst investing in others that have profited from it. On March 20th, 2020, the consumer advocacy group Common Cause filed complaints against Sprecher and Loeffler with the Securities and Exchange Commission, the Senate Ethics Committee, and the United States Justice Department, requesting from the latter a criminal investigation of the couple for violations of the Stock Act, yet it appears that the matter has gone away. In conclusion, I am left no wiser as to what to expect with my mortgage repayments over the remaining 18 years, but increasingly concerned about the infiltration of questionable US corporations in our everyday lives. And at the end there are some links to follow for more information. And I'll read this article at the same time. Massive payouts for executives of pharmaceutical companies developing the coronavirus vaccines. Written by Paul Bennett. Top officials from pharmaceutical companies Pfizer, Moderna and Novavax have recently been busy selling large proportions of their shares. All three firms are currently developing a fast-track vaccination for coronavirus. On the 9th of November, Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla cashed out on 62% of his shares. That was £4.2 million, the same day that his US company Pfizer announced a breakthrough in a vaccine for coronavirus. Another contender in the race for an effective vaccination is biotech firm Moderna Therapeutics. CEO Stephanie Bancel, President Stephen Hoge and Chief Medical Officer Tal Zaks have sold millions worth of their shares in recent months. According to Harvard Law School professor Jesse Fried, this may be their one shot at making a boatload of money if the vaccine doesn't work out. Pharma company Novavax, who are in the latter stages of clinical trials in developing a vaccine, has seen executives including the CEO Stanley Erck pocket millions of dollars by selling some of their company shares recently. In April, a US governmental public-private partnership initiative called Operation Warp Speed was established to facilitate development, manufacturing and distribution of COVID-19 vaccines, therapeutics and diagnostics. According to calculations from Accountable US, a non-partisan watchdog and advocacy group, executives and directors at 5 other companies receiving vaccine funding through Operation Warp Speed made more than $145 million by selling shares from the time period between May and August of this year. There is, of course, nothing illegal or wrong with the sale of shares in one's company. However, many deals were part of a pre-scheduled trading plan, and Professor Daniel Taylor from the University of Pennsylvania Wharton Business School asked the question, what did the executives know at the time so that they pre-scheduled the trade? The timing of massive payouts for the top bosses in the powerful and lucrative world of Big Pharma is highly questionable and worrying. During a time of great uncertainty and nervousness about the rollout of the coronavirus vaccinations and possible mandatory enforcement of the vaccine in 2021, one must question their motives. Only time will tell. Okay. Thank you very much for listening. Let's see what we'll be reading next time. This one, under the health section, disability by design, COVID-19, titanium dioxide and electromagnetic radiation. Okay, thank you very much for listening. Please like, share, subscribe and all the normal things, and take care of yourself until next time. Thank you.